Thank you for joining me for another How to Draw Stuff with me, Calvin Innes. Okay, so for today's lesson, I'm going to show you something that is really important to learn when you're first starting drawing, and it's something that a lot of people struggle with, and that's how to draw hands. Now, a lot of the time when people first start drawing, they either completely avoid drawing the hands, so you put your character's hands in your pockets or behind your back, or you end up with a character with really massive hands because you're trying to squeeze so much information into such a small area. There's a lot of stuff that goes on with your hands. They are quite tricky to draw. So the trick is, when you first start drawing, is to just learn the basics. A couple of really simple little tricks just to improve your hands when you start out. Once you've learned to do this, you can then get into it in more detail. You can learn about the folds and the creases, the bends and the fingernails, all that kind of stuff. But if you just start off learning these really simple little basics, you can improve your hands right away. Okay, so a few super simple tips for improving your hands when you're first starting out drawing. Now, there's a few little things to remember when you're drawing hands. First of all, the same as in some of the other lessons I've shown on here, is we need to simplify things. We need to take a lot of this detail away and make things as simple as possible. Your hands are very, very difficult things to draw, simple as that. So we need to take a lot of that detail away to begin with. I'm going to show you on here, if you can see, this is my arm, okay? Now, a lot of the time when people start drawing, they try and fit all of this detail into such a really small area, and that's why you end up with your characters with really, really big hands. So the first thing we need to do is to draw in a guideline to show just how big the hand is going to be. Now, what we don't want to do is draw in a guideline for the entire hand. We want to draw in the guideline for the palm. And your palm is kind of a square shape. So we're going to start off with a sort of a square shape, kind of rectangular square shape there. And that is to show us how big the palm of our hand is going to be. And once we've got that in, we know our hand isn't going to go too big, because no matter how big you make our thumb and fingers, it's going to remain pretty much the right kind of size. Now, the next thing to remember when you first start drawing out hands is you do not have 5 fingers on a hand. You have got 4 fingers and a thumb. Your thumb is completely different to your fingers. When it comes to drawing, it's just a different thing entirely. Your thumb is this short little stubby thing that sticks out the bottom and the side of your hand. Your fingers are these long spindly things that stick out the top of your hand. They're as different as your arm is from your leg. So there's similarities there, but they're different things. And as soon as you remember that while you're drawing your hands, your drawings are going to improve. Now, the next thing to remember is this. Your thumb is attached onto your hand with this kind of ball shape here. And that's our next guideline. We're going to stick that ball on the bottom of the square where it joins onto the wrist. So this being our wrist. And this is the guideline I want to see you drawing every time you start drawing a hand. So now we know the thumb is this short little stubby thing that sticks out of that ball. Your fingers are these long spindly things that stick out the top. And there you go. So when we come to darkening these lines off a bit, there's your hand. It's not a perfect hand, but it's a good start. And you can do this for any sort of hand that you're drawing. So with the arm, we've got the square for the palm of the hand. I'm going to put the ball in there. This time, I want to do kind of a fist. Okay, so I know the thumb is tucked over from that ball, and then your fingers sort of hidden behind here. So when we now come to sketching the lines we want to keep, you're going to end up with a pretty decent fist. You can do this for absolutely any hand. Just need to remember, there's your arm, sketching the guideline for the palm of your hand. This time let's go for, that way.
Remember, the thumb comes out of this ball here. That finger's going to be pointing. These ones are bent over. So when we come to keeping those lines in, put some little nails in there if you want to. There you go, you got a hand that's pointing. And from there, it's just a case of practicing. As long as you remember that very, very simple rule. You start off with the guideline for the palm of your hand. So this square here. You stick a guideline in there to show you where this ball is, where your thumb joins onto your hand. You know your thumb's different from your fingers. Your thumb's this short little stubby thing. Your fingers all come out of the top of your hand. Now, there's no point to begin with, when you first start sketching these, to worry too much about all of the other details. That's stuff you can learn later on, once you've got this down. And there is a lot to learn for the other bits. There's all sorts of folds and creases, there's the way your fingers bend, the way your thumb bends, where the nails fit onto your fingers. That's all stuff that's important to learn. But trying to learn that before you know these basics makes it far, far more difficult. So grab yourself a pencil, grab yourself some paper, and just practice drawing these basic guidelines and putting together some basic hands. Once you've done that, follow along in my next video, which is going to show you how to draw more complicated, more difficult hands in all sorts of different poses, and have fun. And I will see you next time.